So welcome. This is one of 3 premieres of Dead. So this is the premiere that involves the panel discussion, which gives everybody an opportunity to ask questions. So first, we'll answer a few questions that we've prepared, and then we'll open it up to all of you. So if you have questions that you want to ask, maybe start formulating them now. So this is Raz.
Hello. Thank you
Raz
for
is
watching.
the director, yes.
It's a very happy film.
Yeah.
Uplifting. I feel like it was a comedy, really.
And this is Michael.
Hi.
Most of you probably know. Michael is the cinematographer.
Yep.
Works with me on the Stories by the River projects. And then I guess we call ourselves the co-founders of Stories by the River. We don't tell anybody that it was probably Dominic's idea.
Yeah.
So
We like to steal the.
that's right. We just take
Spotlight
all
from
that thunder
Dominic.
for ourselves. So we'll just open it up. Surveys show that loneliness is a pervading feeling for many people in Western society. Mara's one connection seems to be this vineyard, which ironically is quite a lonely place right now. So what do you think about that? Are there ways that you can feel lonely? Are there things that you turn to when you feel lonely? And was it an original intention to make this a theme in the movie, or did that just happen? That's
For
a
me,
lot, isn't
okay.
it? So we'll all
yeah.
take our turn, but yeah, you start.
Yes, absolutely. The location itself, just down the road from it, where the main office is of the vineyard, there's a restaurant. It's very bustling. Actually, if you remember, there were like 100 people there. But the vineyard, it's in just outside of Tiverton, Rhode Island. There's
Put it very close to you.
I'm sorry. There's no. I don't usually have.
I know.
There's no one there. It's completely alone and isolated, and any angle you look at from that house, it's going to seem like the world has ended, and the weather also lended to that. So I knew that when we wrote this and we wanted to do it, that physically being alone in that space would also make the audience feel alone and really lend itself to basically echoing the idea that everyone is dead and I'm also alone, physically alone. There's nothing around me. It's just me and plants.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things that right away jumped out at me of the script that I was interested in. When you first approached me about the idea of potentially shooting this film, I liked the idea of the vineyard as a character that sort of embodies isolation. It actually, interestingly enough, reminded me a lot of a short film that I directed a few years ago called Cellar Door. A similar concept, a character all alone on an apple orchard. And sort of, it's a thriller, so close genre, but not quite the same. But we utilize that same kind of idea of the environment becomes a character and becomes this sort of, at times, oppressive character. So that you really sense like in this situation you sense Mara's routine, but also the weight of this 100 acres that she's trying to survive in. But yeah, I think one of the things that drew me to the whole thing was that idea that we do turn, I think, to things that are really familiar to us. And comfort us when we are alone, and then they become very bittersweet in that sense, because it's just like you're constantly like, yes, this thing comforts me, but I'm really lonely. Yeah. It's like a marathon of Netflix when there's nobody around. It's really comforting, but oh my gosh, I'm really lonely.
It's just you in Breaking Bad.
It's just me and Walter White.
Yeah, I'm familiar with this healing class that talks about these kinds of things. Like when people are lonely, they tend to turn to something probably unhealthy, as it turns out, and then it actually creates a spiral experience. Like, I don't feel good about what I just did right now. And so there's tinges of this, like she's got a zombie in her shed, and she's feeding it, and this is appalling to Ezra, but this is what she's doing. And it's completely going to be just fine for her. And I think we hear echoes of it with social media sometimes of like, there's lots of access to you, but do you have any real friends? And so there's these questions. And social media, in some ways, I think for me works better as a connection to people that live far away from me and to network. But as like a friendship tool, you know, we'd be better served coming to a movie like this one, I think. So yeah, that theme of loneliness. Do you know, are there things that you guys know? This is what I do when I'm lonely.
What?
I don't know, what?
What do I do when
Yeah.
I'm lonely? Work. I read.
You work.
I work or I'll read. I'll just find something to do. I can't sit and do nothing. So.
Yeah.
I'm never lonely anymore. I have a baby.
That's just not
100% of
true.
the time.
I have 3 children. I know that is not companionship at all times.
That's okay. I guess I'm never alone, but never alone, but constantly lonely. No. Yeah, I used to binge watch Netflix. That doesn't happen anymore. Yeah, I used to work. That doesn't happen anymore. We'll see. We'll see what happens. What I do. Yeah. I mostly just now ruminate, sort of stare at walls and then read.
Contemplate life.
The Hungry Caterpillar or whatever, like for the 100th time.
Good book, huh?
Yeah.
Ruminate. Should I Google this word? What does it mean to ruminate?
Ponder.
I
Sit in your
ponder.
room and examine your soul
So
to
like,
some degree.
so like what I do when I sweep the floor.
Yeah. I tend to do dishes, yes.
That would be ruminating.
Mwah.
Score. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I don't know if I'm lonely anymore ever. But when I used to be lonely, I would call people, like Dominic, and then he would come get me at like 2 in the morning. But these days are gone. I don't know if I get lonely anymore. Maybe. I long for human contact sometimes. So, yeah. Should we see the next question? Okay, so there's this insinuation throughout the movie that Mara and Ezra are not going to be together for all these different reasons. And yet, Ezra stays, and these two are going to live and work side by side in relative isolation. But it seems like the deal on the table at the end of the movie is that it's all about survival, friendship, and a common enemy. Is that an intentional choice, and do you believe it? Can these two really maintain a friendship without their relationship becoming romantic again?
Yes to all of those questions.
Inquiring minds are dying
Yes.
to know.
No. There's a line that we cut from the movie. A few things we cut from the movie. He's willing to forgive her and move on, but his romantic feelings for her are no longer there because she stated very blatantly what she wanted. She chose the life that she wanted over someone that she was interested in. And it was literally well, you don't want this, but you do, so it was almost utilitarian and very pragmatic in her decision-making. So it is about survival. It is about the common enemy. It's about trying to survive.
Can I
Much
ask
like
a
life.
follow-up question?
Yes.
So what if her pragmaticness changes? Is there any...
She's there's a lot of spitefulness going on there. But who knows? What if anything is possible? I mean, the dead are coming back to life, so maybe a dead relationship could come back to life if you want to.
Right. And
I
what
could write
about-
fan fiction if you want.
Okay, so you tell me what you think, and then I'll talk about my girl flights of fancy.
Your girl flights a fancy. I'm struck by the interesting nature of, I always try to approach each story with the idea that it's providing some sort of microcosm of life, in some sense, some sort of step back and try to examine life a little bit. So, even as I was editing this, sort of trying to find that, theme, And the idea that here's these two characters and they have all this shared past, and it's really not, things aren't in a good place for them, but they are going to continue in relationship, and they are going to sort of forge a new thing, whatever that is, whether it's romantic or not. Seems pretty unlikely to me, at least, that's potentially romantic and in the near future. But it feels a little bit like family in that sense. I think that part rings very true to me about that dialogue of, well, you are my family. Like, that is the reality now, and we don't get to pick our family sometimes, and we do have sometimes lots of ugly hurt and different things that potentially go in there. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I'd rather not, hang out with this person. But that's like, well, it's Thanksgiving or it's Christmas or whatever, And you have to sort of get yourself, prepared for that situation and get in there. And then oftentimes we discover, actually, that isn't so bad. I didn't die. I survived. It was fine. Actually, there's good things about this person and this relationship. So I think, especially in the post-apocalyptic genre, there's generally so much explored about human relationships and the dynamics of human relationships under so much pressure. Generally we get this kind of pressure throughout our entire lives, but characters in a zombie world tend to have that pressure in a very short amount of time, and have to make these big decisions that are going to determine so much about survival. But eventually it can't just be literal survival. It has to be sort of emotional survival, relational survival. So I wonder what happens to them after this, but I do think there is that interesting dynamic of maybe it shifts now. Maybe it isn't romantic. Maybe it really is this sort of like, we're family.
Yeah. I could see that. I have this sense throughout that it's all just a ruse. Like they just keep lying to one another. So, and I've been in a couple of friendships many years ago now. Not recently. And they were never real. Like every friendship, somebody in the friendship always had a crush, and it was unspoken, and then it got weird. There was like a note in the locker or something. And so I wonder, and I also think my perspective on life changes as I age all the time. So then I wonder, well, Ezra's making a decision to stay now. Things are very different than they were when he left. I don't know. I wonder what could happen. And I don't know. And this also lets in on some of my issues as well. Everybody has needs. So if it's just the two of you.
Yeah, now you're being pragmatic. All right. Yeah, that's... Yep. Just rereading the classics at that point,
Just for the sake of...
Wow.
Is it possible that does it become if you were the last two people on the island? I don't know.
It's possible. It is possible. Yes, it is. This is yours now. This movie, once you've seen it, once you see a piece of art, it becomes yours. You can interpret it and see however you want. But as the creator, the answer is no. They're not going back together.
Yeah. Well, Michael does this to me all the time with movies too, because I think I am a hopeless romantic, and so I'm always trying to make it work in my mind to the positive. I get very angsty when it's not.
You want Ezra and Mara to repopulate the entire Earth, don't you?
There's still a lot of people out there. It's just the cameras were only in this spot. If you notice on the maps, there's the Midwest is kind of okay.
Of course it is. Nobody wants it.
All the guns in the Midwest, yes. They were right.
So we're going to open it up to all of you. There's one more slide, Dom. Does anybody out there have any questions? So you can ask it, and then I'll re-ask it in the microphone.
One question.
So the question is, when Ezra comes out of the barn, he's got a lot of blood centrally located over his heart. Was that intentional or an accident?
It was kind of a happy accident. The way that we did that blood is rather than just pour blood, I'm going to ruin the magic. Rather than just pour blood onto the shirt, we filled a sponge. We soaked a sponge. Our production designer, Melanie Hardy, soaked a sponge in blood and repeatedly threw it at the shirt over and over again. And she just had really good aim and kept hitting the same spot that turned out to look like the continent of Africa.
Which I didn't realize even while we were shooting. It was when editing. I was like, wait.
Looks
That
exactly like Africa.
Africa. And I sent you a picture. And it's like, wait, what's going on here?
Not me, right?
No.
I got it, yeah.
So the question is, what was your favorite moment in the movie that you didn't realize till you looked at it again?
I'm going to answer that question two ways. The first, the thing that I enjoyed very much watching it again, which I had not seen this in quite some time, actually, because it's been 3 years, was the opening, actually. We did a lot of B-roll, and we weren't sure how much we were going to use to create to establish the environment. And I'm not sure if it was from you or Bryant, our other camera. It's the credit too, when it says written and directed by me. When it moves
That's
in
narrow.
on that post,
Yeah.
it was narrow.
Yeah. He was
Okay.
playing with his tripod, just doing all this kind of weird stuff, and he was like, "Hey, check this out. What do you think of this?" I'm like, "That's cool. Keep it. I don't know where we'll use it, but." And then in editing, I was just, "Oh yeah, there's that cool shot." It's really weird because the world is going Dutch.
So that's the best, my favorite visual moment that I enjoyed watching it again. And in terms of performance, I actually really, really enjoyed Josh Krebs's performance. He didn't get enough screen time, but he was the brother to Teddy, and he was he psyched himself out as a zombie. We kept him in a cold barn for 3 hours. He had no shoes on. He was in that makeup. We brought in a space heater, and he was worried. He was almost here tonight, but he couldn't get the right bus from New York. But he really went above and beyond, and he was so worried it wasn't going to look right. And it looks everything about, like, even when he's dead, it's great. When he's not dead, it's great. He's a tremendous actor.
And there's a great outtake somewhere out there in his zombie makeup, talking about Ruby Tuesdays. Or
Yes, that's right. Yes, we'll have to put
dig
that
that
out
Where he'll
somewhere.
eat pork.
release that.
Yes, that and the slate break.
Yes.
The slate broke.
Yeah, when he was slating it, it was a beautiful moment.
He had proceeded by saying, "Oh, how hard is it to slate?
That's the problem, right?
How hard is it to slate?" And it was 21E was the scene or something.
yeah.
And when you say, if it's a number and then a letter, you throw on a word, like if it's 21A, 21 Apple, 21 Albuquerque. And he chose Einstein, so he says, "Scene 21 Einstein," and claps it, and the slate breaks apart completely. And he just walked away.
So dejected.
Yep. It's like, all right, point taken.
Yep.
I love it.
Karma.
Any other questions? So the question is, in your mind, as the writer, I think, how did zombies come to be in the world? What was the fallout? What happened?
Well, like I had said in that little video, which was 6 or 7 minutes long, but in reality was 60 minutes of me saying a lot, that Michael did a great job cutting. It was two different stories that came together. One was a story of someone who kept a zombie alive in a barn and just tried to deal with that. The other story was about two people who used to be in a relationship, then were not in a relationship, and she ended up marrying the brother. So combining those two kind of made sense, because I couldn't figure out if I wanted to do which one I wanted to actually make, which short I wanted to actually shoot. But the idea that you're keeping something alive, be it a person or hope or an idea of how something used to be, also I think played very well combining those two, because she's keeping someone who's biologically dead alive, because she can't bring herself to let go of it. So that was the molding point at that point. That's when they linked up. There, yes.
They linked up.
Is there some sort of, central metaphor to, like a true ball and chain, I guess, in that sense, that is just really holding her down at this
No,
point.
but that's really funny. As I was watching that, I thought, we really could have just tied him up with a rope, but we went for like handcuffs and chains because we could, and I liked the sound of chains.
Right.
So this is assuming that she had handcuffs on a vineyard, which sheds a little light into their relationship. It's a G-rated film.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wonder about that idea of, again, looking at movies as a microcosm and then thinking like, oh yeah, here's this she can't let go kind of thing, and it
absolutely.
really becomes this, as you were saying even in the interview, this draining sort of real drag, this inability to go forward because there's just this huge weight behind her, and in this sense, it's quite literal. This thing that's almost chained to her,
No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's whether that the person in your life, if it is a person that you can't let go of that has passed and has not in fact come back as a zombie, and if that's the case, let me know. You can't always let go of someone, and some people go their whole lives, be it a spouse, especially, or a child, or just a friend. They just cannot let go of that person. So what better opportunity is there to just have someone who's dead still kind of moving around and just chain them up, even though they'll smell like poop, and it's you physically cannot get rid of them. I mean, you could. They're just not. She's not letting it go.
That's arguably a metaphor for an insidious relationship.
Originally before, there you go. Originally before he was beaten to death again, the original ending that I had was they actually let him go into the wild, but he's not like a
free lassie.
Yeah, exactly. He's not a woodland creature. He would in fact turn around and try to eat them, which would have made this a very dark comedy. And in retrospect, maybe we should have done that.
I think we got to go shoot that as an alternate ending.
We'll do it again. We'll just storyboard it and be like, previously, this could have happened.
That would be awesome. I'm there. Any day.
I wish, honestly, now that I look at it again, I kind of wish we did do that. Because the ending that we cut, the ending that you see is they're walking towards the zombie that was crawling over the stone wall, which we so both gracefully climbed over. We kind of almost fell over now that I saw it again. We cut it off right before, and we did film it, where they bash its head in. They beat its head with the shovels. So neither of those endings stuck, I guess. We just kept the less violent one.
It was a conversation that we had in the process of cutting the film. I ended up making the argument for.
It was a friendly discussion.
Yes, it was. It was. And I made the sort of point that I felt like the stronger ending was the implication, the implied, and there's something really iconic and even metaphoric about that moment, about both of them now actually become active characters. They're no longer passive. They've made a choice to stay. She's obviously been staying, but she's kind of doing her thing. He's made a choice to stay. They both go and get these shovels, and now they're walking away from the dead they've just buried. They're leaving that behind to go face their common enemy. And it just felt like, this is the end of a Western, so just fade out here, because this is the moment to leave it, for me emotionally at least. It was almost like, because it's such a cool build-up, and then to go to the bashing, I was like, oh, actually, I wanted to leave there at least as an editor.
Mm-hmm. It was fine. Yeah, it looks good. I like it, clearly.
I like it, really. I do.
I'm not convinced.
I do. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
I'm just kidding.
It's hard. It really is hard to cut stuff.
Oh, it is.
Really, really, really is. They have a tiny little argument, Mara and Ezra, that we cut that too, actually. He throws out the B word. Now he doesn't, but he did. So it's hard to make those choices.
Yeah.
So the question is, when you're doing a short film, how do you decide how short it has to be, and how would you turn it into a longer film?
I will say something about this, but then I will let Michael answer this question. It's very difficult. Usually the point of the short film is one of two reasons. One, it's a calling card for a larger project. Or two, it's just you want to say something really simple and it's not enough for a feature. In the United States, short films are popular on the internet, but they're not as popular as they are worldwide, where you could pay, I was just talking about this earlier, $10 to, like in Europe, go see a night of short films, like 5 or 6 back to back. I don't really think this could be a longer, into a full feature film. The universe, I'm sure, within it, the world could be explored, absolutely. People have done it. But it's hard. It's a hard thing to say, when do I stop writing? When, can I actually make this as a short? I know I can't make it as a feature. I don't have that kind of the resources, but it's a combination between what you're trying to say with it and the resources available to you. But Michael has a better answer.
I do. How do you
Yeah.
know this?
You've done far more shorts than I have.
Yeah, I've kind of bounced around on short film length, and that kind of varies from project to project. So Cellar Door, the first project that I directed that actually got into festivals and got in places, was 37 minutes long. Like now, that is like insanely long, arguably unacceptably long for a short film. And so there's budget, shootability, all of these things.
Shootability.
Shootability.
You just made a word.
How shootable is it? I'm always, I actually have conversations with people about it. Is this shootable or not? In the sense of, can we go and make this happen on the no money that we have? And that's usually what, for me at least, that's what's kept me in short films versus features. I want to make features. But generally, as far as actually being able to practically say, okay, I'm going to dive into this project and make it, rather than try to make something really long, but have it like really, really spread thin, in a sense, as far as production value, I've found it more valuable to maybe go the other direction and really invest in making something really good that's really short because of that calling card thing. And also, I find that it really helps hone my skills as a storyteller to really focus in and dive into characters in a sort of really kind of pressure cooker situation, high pressure. So I've kind of run the full gamut. I've done like 37 minutes and I've done 8 minutes. And today, I would argue that as far as what determines the length of a good short film, part of it is you got to look through your script and as you're writing and figure out, well, how can I effectively tell this story in the shortest amount of time possible? And maybe that'll be 5 minutes, maybe that'll be 20 minutes. But I also think that there's just the reality of, well, what gets me into a festival today? How do I get eyeballs, people to watch this online? 30 minutes ain't going to cut it probably for online, for the YouTube generation. For a lot of festivals, you need to try to land somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes. If you can really wow the right festivals, you can do longer than that. So it's really all a balancing act. And that was part of why, as I'm continuously honing that and then getting opportunity, which I really appreciate to be able to edit further. It just helps me hone those skills because I'm thinking critically, even back to that situation of, here's this scene that I love, I think it's really cool, and I think it's got to go because this is a short, and I think we just got to stay focused, So it's always kind of a wrestling match between your story, your budget, and the audience's attention span.
So I'm going to wrap us for the evening. Feel free to continue to ask questions. We'll be around for a little bit longer. Like I said, there's 2 more premieres. So this is our panel Q&A. Tomorrow we have more of a formal experience where we watch the film and then I give reflections. And then later on we do a small group discussion experience where we ask the questions, but I don't draw the conclusions. The people watching draw the conclusions. So Stories by the River gets involved in the filmmaking aspect in order to engage life and find ways to creatively ask meaningful questions and start dialogue, which is why we open with these, intellectual questions. Is that what you called them?
Sure, yeah.
Academic question.
These were all intellectual questions. Nice way to insult the audience.
I do what I can. I do what I can.
Never coming back,
I
guys. No, it's cool. I get it.
I can attribute it all to looking young.
Well, yeah, thank you guys for coming out this evening.
Yes,
and
thank you.
Encourage you to check out all this stuff and the movie, and all the sort of behind the scenes stuff will be on the website, and it is Name Your Price now. So if you want to share it with friends and you feel like, I don't know, if my friend will necessarily plunk out, $2 or whatever to watch this, they can name 0 as their price. That's fine. We just want more people to be able to experience this. And then hopefully some people will say, oh, this is kind of cool, and I appreciate this, and want you guys to be able to make more movies, so here's $5, here's $10 or whatever.
$5. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yes.
That's all I need. But yeah, we would appreciate if you share with friends, social media, any of those kinds of things, because that's how we're doing this thing and continuing to spread the word.
So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.